Welcome back. You're watching Taking Stock, and this was a good week for the market. We have our guests with us, Anu Jain from IIFL, and Tirthankar Patnaik has been talking to us. Tirthankar, the next cue for the market would be the RBI policy. Do you expect a rate cut, and do you think the rate cut as a trigger can still move market? Because last time we had a rate cut, the market actually topped out.
Well, the reason why the rate cuts come, I guess, also drive market sentiments. This year, at the beginning of this year, towards the end of last year, the clear guidance from the central bank was that unless certain indicators work out, southwest monsoon, clarity on the fiscal, clarity on how the Fed will essentially move on rates, they would essentially drive the interest rate environment for India. RBI had also made it fairly clear that they would like to have a unidirectional movement, so therefore the trajectory on inflation needed to be fairly clear as well. Now, post that, the first rate cut was a surprise. The second rate cut was a bigger surprise, not really quite in line with what the central bank had essentially pointed out as guidance earlier. Having said that, what has happened now is that the markets are generally expecting about 50 basis points further in this particular fiscal. Anything higher than 50 basis points would be construed as fairly positive. The commentary from the central bank would also be fairly important. Look, on food inflation, the worry is that with the lackadaisical monsoon that we might end up having this year, rains below about 12% from the long-term average. Last year the numbers were around 9 to 10% below the long-term average. There are worries that food inflation might pick up again. Having said that, buffer stocks are at lifetime highs, near lifetime highs, I guess. So, the government could bring down the food inflation meaningfully or keep it controlled, which would again lead to expectations of interest rate cuts from the RBI. My own sense is that any rate cut in June would be construed as positive by the markets, and from that perspective, anyway, we are expecting that the central bank would cut rates. The inflation trajectory is likely to be benign, not just over the next couple of months, but towards the end of the year. We might end the year at about 5.5 to 5.8% on the CPI, and beyond that, the inflation trajectory should also remain well under control. And from that perspective, the market should be enthused by the RBI action.
Okay, that's about the next important target, or rather important trigger, which is the RBI policy on the 2nd of June. But Anu, this week was great for stock picking. So we had a lot of stocks that hit fresh highs, whether it's names like Voltas, Britannia, DCB, Eicher Motors, Adani Enterprises. All these stocks hit fresh 52-week and lifetime highs. Any of these names that you would recommend for a further trade next week?
Well, most of them are post results or related to some announcement, but I think Friday Voltas basically broke the previous high and it's closed at about 315. This break would probably now open doors for about 342. The stock is one of the picks even on the fundamental side, so I would say that probably looks to be a good trade. For a technical call, I think the stop loss should now be placed at about 305, so I think that looks good. Britannia, which is closed up, I think that can move up now up to about 2750. So I think within that whole gamut of 5-6 stocks, I would probably pick up Britannia and Voltas to be the pick for next week as well. That move can be expected to move further.
Anu, the other stock that came out of a bit of a bear market was Bajaj Auto. What are the charts indicating here? And not just for Bajaj Auto, maybe a couple of other auto names as well.
Well, it's testing its 200-day moving average. After the result, it kind of popped back into the zone. Charts have a positive bias. If it can hold these current levels of 2300, then it can make a further, move up. Otherwise, if there is some give up here, you could have a retest of about 2200 to 2180. So how it manages to hold these levels for another 1 or 2 days, because it's been 2 sessions. Want to see it spend another 1 or 2 sessions here, then you could say probably that it could move up. Around these zones, probably yes. On Thursday, you had moves in TVS, news related. You had, again, Bajaj Auto numbers. So I think this sector for the time being has some flavor, but has resistance around these zones. So would be careful about these at this time right now.
Okay. Tirthankar, I know you track the flows situation very closely into our markets. We got some reports that after 5 weeks, there's been a resumption of flows into many of the emerging markets like India. What's the sense you're getting about how the flows will pan out? Because there was a threat of money moving out of India and into markets like China a couple of weeks ago.
My sense is that flows are likely to remain tepid for now. Yes, there has been a resumption over the last week and a half or so, but my guess is that until July, August, we are likely to see fairly tepid flows on the FII front, both on the debt side as well as the equity side. Are we going to break last year's records? Unlikely at the moment, at least, because we'll have this fairly long season where earnings growth is likely to remain tepid, and until the triggers that I mentioned earlier pan out, we're not likely to see resumed flows. And on the other side, emerging market peers for India have been doing fairly well, and flows have been fairly strong towards Asian regional peers for India, especially China, as you rightly pointed out. So I would not expect major flows to resume before August, really.
All right, Tirthankar, Anu, thank you for giving us a 360-degree perspective on the markets, both fundamental as well as technical. So it seems like as though the uptrend could continue, and a lot of what Tirthankar was saying is based on hope as well. So I think that hope rally is still not out of the way.
Hope rally is not out of the way, Sonia, but next week would also be a lot of earnings. It would be earnings heavy. We've still not seen 50% of the earnings come out, and that would happen over the next 2 weeks. So that's also something that we'll be watching out for. A lot of these stocks will move on earnings. The anecdotal evidence tells us that really it's not been that bad. So the market will have its hopes.
All right, a good week for the markets. But what are the events that you need to watch out for next week? Our colleague Mangalam is here to give us more. Mangalam.
Well, indeed, thanks a lot for that. Next week, the market will be keeping its eyes open for the expiry. Remember, May contracts expire on Thursday next week, and also the market will be anticipating, or there will be a build-up in the stock market ahead of the GDP data release for India, which comes on Friday. But among the individual stocks that we need to watch, because the next week is also the last week of the earnings season, and mind you, there are a lot of earnings that we need to watch. In fact, on Monday, we'll be watching earnings like Canara Bank, Central Bank of India, E-Clarks, Greenply Industries, Heidelberg Cement, Honeywell Automation, Muthoot Finance, and Transport Corporation as well. Come Tuesday, we'll be watching Bank of India, BHEL, HPCL, IDBI Bank, Reliance Power, Tata Motors, Tech Mahindra, and United Spirits. On Wednesday, we'll be watching earnings like GAIL, JSPL, Reliance Infra, Tata Communications, and TTK Prestige. Amara Raja Batteries, Aurobindo Pharma released their numbers on Thursday. And that's not all. On Thursday, we are also watching BPCL, Coal India, Container Corporation, Crompton Greaves, Hindalco, ONGC, Page Industries, Pipavav Defence, Power Grid Corporation, Rural Electrification Corporation, Tata Global Beverages, and Bokart. But the Friday, we'll end the earnings season with BEL, BEML, Berger Paints, Blue Star Limited, Bosch Limited, which is the latest entrant to the Nifty, Glenmark Pharma, GMR Infra, Indian Oil Corporation, Info Edge, Jet Airways, Just Dial Limited, M&M, NTPC Limited, Oil India, SAIL, Sun Pharma, Sun TV, India Cements, Unitech, and United Breweries. With that, back to you.
All right, that's the time we got on this edition of Taking Stock. Until we meet again on Monday, you have a good weekend.